Isolation. It's something we have all experienced at some point. It's an intangible feeling of loneliness. It's hard to pinpoint what exactly makes isolation feel the way it does, but as humans we know it when we feel it. Living in our cities and urban centers, where there is always another person nearby, can make us forget just how gigantic the Earth is. We don't often think about the empty expanses that are dotted around our globe. Some of these places are beautiful, resource-rich and as big as countries, but if you were to scream, no one would hear you. Sometimes, there is an obvious reason why no one inhabits these places. Sometimes there isn't. The Gobi Desert. Asia's largest desert, the Gobi Desert, is a place that makes it obvious as to why it lacks inhabitants. It's a seemingly endless 1.3 million square kilometer expanse of rock, gravel, and sand. The Gobi Desert exists for a few reasons. Most prominent is the barrier created by the world's tallest mountain range, the Himalayas. These mountains completely block the Gobi Desert from receiving moisture from the Indian Ocean, making life very hard to sustain. Plants are very few and far between here, and animals are even more scarce. The rain shadow not only inhibits life, but the lack of moisture in the air and non-existent cloud cover means the temperature in the Gobi Desert is not regulated. The desert sits as a defenseless victim of the sun and of the freezing winds that blow south from Siberia, which can result in daily temperature fluctuations of up to 33 degrees Celsius. Temperature fluctuations don't just come daily, however. The Gobi Desert has some of the most extreme seasonal temperature changes in the world. The relatively high altitude of the Gobi Desert means that the sun can beat down at over 40 degrees Celsius in the summer and plunge to -40 in the winter. Gobi is a Mongolian word that translates to something like stony, gravelly desert, which is perhaps what makes this desert so strange. About 95% of the Gobi is bare rock, gravel, or earth, not sand, making this place seem much less like the Sahara and a lot more like an alien planet. The Australian interior. Despite the tropical climate of Australia's east coast, the sheer size of the outback makes Australia the driest inhabited continent on Earth. About 70% of this continent is arid or semi-arid desert. Now, I probably don't have to tell you that no one lives in this great interior desert due to the extreme heat, low rainfall, and soil that is very nutrient poor. But the reason this desert exists is interesting. Australia sits on one geologically stable tectonic plate, meaning there is a severe lack of big, young mountains that are needed to cause and trap rain clouds. Australia's most significant mountain range sits very close to the east coast, so only a smaller portion of Australia actually has the capacity to trap rain. After that, it's an endless expanse of red dirt, sand, and rock. There are 10 named deserts in Australia, although they are all just as desolate. A handful of tiny rural settlements are separated by an infinite sense of emptiness. Temperatures can soar to over 50 degrees Celsius here, and the lack of elevation changes means, in some areas, you could stare at the earth disappearing into horizon, broken up by maybe a couple shrubs. Siberia. Siberia is similar to the Australian interior in the fact its sheer size makes it eerily empty. Humans often have a hard time truly comprehending large numbers or spaces, and Siberia is a solid example of this. It is easy to forget that Russia is in fact the largest country on Earth, as the stereotypes of Russia we encounter in the English-speaking world are often quite narrow and limited. The reasons for the scarce population in Siberia are quite obvious. For one, much of Siberia is covered in a dense and difficult to navigate boreal forest, which is also the largest biome on Earth, for those interested. The sheer size of Siberia also makes transportation difficult, meaning people are less inclined to move here, and the short farming seasons make it hard to live here without shipping goods. But let's be honest, the real reason Siberia is so empty is the extreme cold. Northern Siberia is very far north, near the Arctic Circle, but Siberia is also cold due to the massive landmass that is Eurasia. If we imagine a landmass as a cake, and the ocean as an oven, then Eurasia is way too big to receive even cooking in the middle. The middle of this cake just happens to be Siberia. Siberia is too far from any warm ocean to stay temperature regulated, and the Arctic oceans it does touch are not turned on, to use my oven metaphor. In fact, they are probably more like a freezer if anything. All of this is to say that winters in Siberia can drop below -50 degrees Celsius. Although, unlike the Australian outback, some large, modern cities that reach above 1 million residents do exist in Siberia. These cities are mostly situated towards the south, along the Trans-Siberia Railway, and they mostly thrive as industrial centers due to the massive amount of oil, gas, and minerals that exist in Siberia. Siberia is huge, resource-rich, and often very beautiful. But if you were to be dropped in the middle of Siberia with no experience, survival would be next to impossible. If you don't die from the extreme cold, then perhaps taking a second to think about just how isolated you are would turn you insane. Greenland. I've always found something about these Arctic landscapes, like what is found in Greenland, to be so eerily frightening. Perhaps it is because it is so foreign to me as an Australian, or perhaps it's human nature to be alarmed about something that embodies being cold and lifeless. Greenland sits very far north on the globe, with a majority of the islands sitting in the Arctic Circle, much too far north for a majority of the Earth's living organisms. Because of this fact, trees in Greenland are exceptionally rare. There's actually only one natural forest on the entire island, and it is in the far south. Apart from this, the rest of Greenland is covered by tundra and a thick ice sheet that makes life incredibly difficult to sustain. This lack of greenery has always stood out as unsettling to me. It feels like a true sense of loneliness, where not even a blade of grass could hear you scream. Perhaps it also invokes a feeling of megalophobia when I look at the huge mountains and endless snowy fields that are completely devoid of life. Greenland's capital city serves as another testament to just how isolated this entire region really is. Nuuk, the capital city, is home to roughly 1/3 of Greenland's population, which sounds insane when I tell you that Nuuk is only home to about 20,000 people. Meaning once you leave this small town capital city, there's only another 35,000 people spread across this huge Arctic wasteland.